Hello and welcome to the DRS Zone podcast. My name is Ed Wyatt. Alongside me is my 13-year-old son, Sam Wyatt. We apologize for this late dropping of the podcast, but we couldn't help it. You had camp, mandatory school camp.
Yes, I had to go away. I was shipped off to Gippsland, which is about a 4.5-hour drive from Ivanhoe, where we are doing our podcast from. I didn't get to see all the race, but I promise you I've rewatched it more than 3 times, and I'm ready to talk about the Miami Grand Prix.
Didn't have any Grand Prix experiences on the camp? Any chance to drive a car or anything?
Surprisingly not, actually. No, I had canoeing, which was close.
Okay.
I finished 4th.
4th.
If we had DRS, we probably could got on the podium. But, yeah, other than that, it was good.
It's good to see you back. Well, let's get into our top talking points brought to you by Little Bear Prints. Little Bear Prints for all your t-shirt needs. littlebearprints.com.au. Number one, I think we leave the race for a second and just say, did Miami pull this off? This was the most hyped Grand Prix we've seen in a long time. Big one in America. Very showy. A lot of money spent. Very expensive. It kind of felt like it worked, in my opinion. There were some things wrong with it. The track wasn't necessarily great. Those can all be fixed. I think the hype actually, I think it lived up to the hype.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, we've seen in 2020 and 2021 some new races added and some hype around that, like, for example, Turkey or the Eiffel Grand Prix, to use an example. But they were only one-offs or two-offs. We have seen some new permanent ones like Jeddah and Zandvoort in the Netherlands, but they don't have as much hype around Miami. I mean, it's a big, famous city where most of incredible stuff happens. Miami Vice we've seen.
Yes.
So it's just a big thing, and I think to have an incredible first Grand Prix like this with so many people there and so many people excited, I think it's a perfect start for them.
Yeah, I agree. The only negative, I think, we'll talk about this a little bit later, a little heavy on the celeb influencer culture. And I think the race wasn't great if you just sat down for the first time and went, all right, I'm going to see what this F1's all about. It was just okay. Right?
Yes, I know what you mean. And with the celebrities, that's what you get in America. Like we saw last year, the whole Megan Thee Stallion thing with Martin Brundle. We've seen Tom Brady there. We've seen all these people. We've seen Matthew McConaughey a couple of years ago.
Austin,
That's just USA. I mean, people are there. Celebrities are going to be in America.
Yep.
Not much you can do about that.
I think you're absolutely right. All right, let's move on to the race. Talking point number 2, the champ is back. He looks strong. Little worried there for Leclerc and Ferrari. What do you think?
Nah, I'm not worried. It's race 5. It's, as to quote the great Lewis Hamilton, it's a marathon, not a sprint, which he said in race 6, I believe it was.
Yep.
So, and there was even more time now than there was then. So I'm not worried. I mean, Red Bull do have a fast car. They're incredibly quick in the straights, and that is a little worrying. But we're very fast in the high-speed and low-speed corners, and Ferrari will be pleased with that. And I think Leclerc is probably driving the best of anyone. I just think that Red Bull is incredibly fast. That's tough to keep up with. But if we just make some slight changes, Ferrari could be back on top. It's kind of going back and forth each race between these two teams. So I think it'll be a very interesting championship battle. And Max is closing in, but he's not there yet.
No, that's right. Well, that's a good lead into talking point number 3, which is more of a team talking point. Carlos Sainz finishing 3rd. Huge result for him. He and Checo Perez, that battle, to me, is going to be fascinating because each of those teams is going to need those points from those number 2 drivers.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's huge for Sainz to make it a double Ferrari podium in what seems to be a Red Bull track. We saw Max was probably going to win it anyway, even if that safety car didn't come. He was holding Leclerc off. He was 7 or even 10 seconds up at some point, and then the safety car, he held it really well. Leclerc had some chances, but he did pull it off quite well, and Perez was pushing as well, but Sainz to hold him off, considering he hadn't finished the last 2 races. Just incredible for him, boosts his confidence. Leclerc knows he has a trustworthy teammate. I think Ferrari needed that, and Perez is a little bit on the back foot, but I think he'll be all right going into Spain.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating battle, and as I said, that was a huge, huge result for Carlos Sainz. Really, really important for him to hold off Perez there and finish on the podium. Talking point number 4, McLaren had kind of set themselves up as America's team. Zach Brown, Daniel Ricciardo loves America. There's a big
McLaren following.
Big McLaren following in the States, but they did not have a very good weekend.
No, not at all. We were talking about on the preview that Daniel Ricciardo really needed to get his act together with all the rumours about some drivers possibly replacing him. He didn't really, actually. I mean, it wasn't a great race, kind of went nowhere, got a penalty, ended up in 13th.
Wasn't terrible, just wasn't great.
Bad, but it's not like he was going to score points at any point. So just really troublesome for him, and also for Norris, who's been so instrumental this season in helping McLaren after a tough first few races get back up there with the top teams, and just crashed that. A weird one, I don't know whose fault it was. It was sort of a racing incident, which you rarely see with such a big impact like that. But, not great for him. I did like his helmet, though.
The basketball.
Yep. But, McLaren just weekend to write off. No points after a podium in Imola.
Yeah.
And I know we've said this 1,000 times, but Ricciardo needs a great race next weekend.
We keep saying
that,
But
that's what we keep saying, and it's improving slightly, but not yet. But a couple of races time, we got Monaco, so if he can score some big points there, I think that'll be good for him.
Yeah. Should also mention a real America's team could be entering in a couple years' time. That's the Michael Andretti racing team. It would be fascinating. We'll talk about that on a future podcast, but obviously that keeps the American momentum going. If you've got an American team, he wants an American driver.
You've got 3 races coming in. You've got Vegas coming in.
Absolutely.
It's just really being pushed, USA.
Yep. And I should mention, highest rated ever live Formula One Grand Prix on U.S. television.
Oh, wow.
It's the highest one. There was
That's
actually
incredible.
a replay of, I think, Monaco that did better, actually. But it's the highest rated live broadcast ever.
A replay?
Yeah, believe it or not. Isn't that funny?
Strange.
Yeah, very, very
That's
strange.
Very strange.
2.6 million viewers, by the way, on ABC, which is pretty
That's
impressive.
nothing compared to America's population.
Nah,
They've got what?
300 some million, but
Yeah,
that's a really great number. Number 5, fifth talking point. I'm going to bring it up again. Too many celebs on the grid. I know you can have celebrities at a race. That's part of it. They don't need to be on the grid. They're handing out too many passes to too many people. That grid walk with Martin Brundle was an absolute disaster. He couldn't find enough people. He couldn't find any drivers. He likes to mix it up, celebrities and drivers. Couldn't find any drivers. Mistakes, Paolo Banchero, the Duke basketball player for Patrick Mahomes, not necessarily his fault. Someone's telling him that. Just kind of I just felt it was way too over the top. Wasn't happy with that. I think they need to dial it back a little bit. Okay to get the people there. Let's get people there who want to be there, who want to talk, who are race fans, not just people that brush off Martin Brundle and really are only there to be seen. I'm really not happy about that. That's anyway. Rant is over.
Yeah, we saw with Venus Williams and Serena were there. He tried to get an interview with Venus, and she kind of wasn't listening. She was like, "Oh, you're talking to me, are you?" So it's very awkward. And the last couple of grid walks have kind of just been absent. I mean, nothing really special, and everyone they get. The last real one was sort of Australia, because Martin Brundle wasn't there in Imola. And this sort of mess, shall I call it?
Yeah, it was a mess. And like I said, you need to have not so many people so it's not so crowded, and a good mix of racing people and celebrities who are there because they like the races and are willing to engage with Brundle. You can't just have people ignoring him. It's not fun. I think it was kind of funny last year, as you mentioned, with the I can because I just did it. But this didn't have that feel to it. This just had a feel of it was just not fun. It was a bit of a mess.
I agree with you.
All right, let's keep rolling with the TV and do our little TV talk segment. Not a lot really this time, but it felt a little bit more back to normal with Jensen Button and Simon Lazenby and Karun back.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't there in Imola. A little bit of a strange broadcaster we mentioned, but they were back, and it was pretty good. Not that many falters. I mean, I think qualifying and practice was good. Race with the grid walk, as we said in the post-race, were interesting, shall we say.
What do you think about the football helmets?
I think it's okay because it's Miami.
I think you're right. It was a little weird at first.
If they did something else, like they put shoulder pads or something, that might be crossing the line. But I think it's okay. I think it's okay. And we had Danica Patrick there.
She surprised me, Sam. I'd seen her do some stuff on American TV a few years ago. I didn't think she was great. Her voice wasn't great. She didn't have a lot of confidence. I thought she was really good. I thought she really added a lot. She deferred to the F1 drivers.
Yeah.
She wasn't trying to act like she knew everything. But yet she's a really good driver, so she was able to assess some things. I was very impressed with her.
Yeah, I think she did a really nice job. She found the balance between not saying, "Oh, well, I know how to do that," and found it between that and being able to know what's happening and being an expert in a race car.
Yep, I agree. I thought she was good. All right, let's do In the Pits. This is our segment where we kind of look at the things that are not as good, kind of things that went off the track, so to speak. Why don't you lead us with one? What do you got?
I got a sad one to start with. Mick Schumacher, who has just had the worst run of luck in a Haas that is, may I say, improved incredibly this season. Just can't score points. He comes so close every race. He's probably got the record for the most 11th place finishes.
This was the
in
one,
history.
wasn't it? This was
the one. He was driving incredible. Haas weren't that great, but Schumacher was on top of his game. He was flying ahead of Magnussen, surely going to get points. He was like 8th with like 3 laps to go. And then, once again, coming together with his mentor, his
father figure,
his friend, his fellow German, Sebastian Vettel. Schumacher dropped down a bunch of places, ended Vettel's race.
They were both completely bummed, too, when you hear them talk.
Yeah,
so bummed out.
Yeah, just terrible for Schumacher, who's the only driver on the grid who hasn't scored points in their career.
That's amazing, isn't it? He was so close. It's going to come. It's going to come. Not a great weekend for Haas.
We say this every time.
I'm going to throw Haas in the pits, to be honest, with that, plus Magnussen not finishing, and not a great race for Magnussen at all. You mentioned earlier Norris and Gasly. We can throw them in here as well, probably in the pits. And our old pal, Fernando. His bad luck continues.
Yeah, and I predicted him to be 4th. So
you did.
Can we cut that out of the podcast?
Yeah, we can go back and edit that out.
Okay, that's good.
But another penalty.
Yeah, kind of just pain for Alpine, who have a competitive car, we know, but we saw Ocon in the wall in FP2, which is not great. Or FP3, should I say, sorry. Missing qualifying, starting from the back of the grid. Ocon actually had an incredible race and ended up scoring some points in 8th. But Alonso kind of went nowhere, was in the points, and then got some penalties for some collisions and for some issues. So he dropped out of the points, and that's kind of been Alpine's story. I mean, they've kind of snuck into the points when they should have more points than they should have. Like in Australia, could have been on the front or the second row, but Alonso had an issue with the hydraulics. So just a really tough start for Alpine, but I think their time will come, and I'm sure they will have a very good season to come.
One last one from me, and this is nothing to do with on the track, but off the track. The FIA crackdown on the jewelry became a huge talking point. Hamilton wore like 2 watches and all those chains to the thing. Seb Vettel wore the underwear over his pants because there was something about underwear. I just think, look, things are going really well. If Hamilton wants to wear some jewelry, let the guy wear some jewelry.
It's a 7-time champion.
It's his. I mean, I don't know what they're worried about. If it's going to burn him if he gets in a crash. I mean, I just think it's a very strange rule. And if you look at it in a certain way, when you look at who wears more jewelry of all the drivers? Lewis Hamilton. It looks like, it may not be, but it looks like they're targeting Lewis Hamilton. I can understand why he's upset about that. I think it's ridiculous. There are plenty of other problems to solve. Let's not worry about jewelry.
One more in the pits, may I say. The police escorts.
Yeah,
I know we talked about the TV. We've talked about the post-race and the helmets and everything. I think that's a little strange.
Pretty tacky.
I think it's kind of cool. It was a little cringy, though.
It was a little cringy.
Just to have the Red Bull people. I mean, I think they kind of crossed the line a bit with the helmets and the escorts and just everything and the fake beach and it's a little over the top.
Miami is fake, my friend. That's the heart of the whole thing.
It's a little plastic, shall I call the city.
Very, very good word.
But it was a good race.
Yeah, it was. Look, and as I said, They can fix things. If the track isn't great, if the asphalt wasn't up to snuff, then they can change that. They can change the corners if it's too tight. They can get more padding on there to make the wall softer. So they can
They've
make
got
changes.
a year to fix it.
They got plenty of time to fix it. You're right. Next week, or the next race, is the Spanish Grand Prix, Circuit de Catalunya. Fascinating fact here, Hamilton's the 6-time winner. He's won the last 5. And I'm stealing your stats thing.
You are.
It's been the same 3 on the podium for the last 4 years. Hamilton, Verstappen, and Bottas.
That's incredible.
For the last 4 years.
That is quite astonishing. I mean, but this is one of the most boring races on the calendar. Followed by Monaco, which isn't great either.
Yeah, you're right.
But we got Baku after that, so it should be all right. But Spain is kind of boring. I mean, as you said, same for Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas on the podium. Each year, Leclerc's been up there most years. Perez has been up there. Ricciardo's been in there. Stroll and Vettel have been up there as well. I don't think it'll be anything out of the ordinary. I mean, it's not that interesting of a race. I don't think there are many crashes or incident-prone corners on this track. I think I'm ready to say my prediction, and I will go first.
Okay, well, not so fast, my friend. Let's recap Miami.
Because we don't need to.
I got the first 2. I got Verstappen and Leclerc. Then I said Perez instead of Sainz. You said Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen, I believe, unless you change it. You may have changed it.
I think I said Leclerc, Perez,
and Alonso 4th. So for the second week in a row, I take the honors in the predictions, but I'll let you go ahead.
No, you go first.
No.
Okay.
You said you wanted to, so you go for it.
Can I do my bold prediction at the end?
Of course you can.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to say Max wins it.
Yep.
Red Bull are fast in Spain.
Yep.
Always have been, probably always will be. 2016, first race he ever moved to Red Bull. After 5 races, they sent Daniel Kvyat packing from Red Bull and brought in Max Verstappen, and his first race for Red Bull won the Spanish Grand Prix.
Very good point.
Been on the podium many times here. I'm going to say he wins it. A dominant victory. Very dominant victory from Leclerc, who has done all right in the past few years here. Would have had points in the last 3 of them if not for an engine issue in 2020. I'm going to say Leclerc finishes second. And I'm going to say Checo takes third. He's been 5th the last 2 years here. So my podium, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez.
I actually have that exact same podium.
No, you don't.
I do. But just to mix it up a little bit, I'll throw Perez in second and Leclerc third. So
Okay.
I'll go Max, Checo, Leclerc, even though I kind of think Leclerc may finish second.
Okay, but if that's the podium and I'm right, I get more kudos than you.
I'll give you that.
Deal. Okay, deal. Now, time for Sam's bold prediction.
Yes.
So, last week wasn't great. I said Alonso in 4th, which, I mean,
It's all right.
we don't need to know what
let's
happened
not
there.
worry about that.
But this week, George Russell is the only driver to finish in the top 5
Correct.
at every race this season. My prediction, Lewis Hamilton, who's a 6-time winner here in Spain and has won the last 5 of them. I say Sainz is 4th. I say Lewis Hamilton finishes 5th and breaks George Russell's top 5 finishing streak.
Wow. I like that call, actually, a lot. I like that a lot.
Yep.
If Mercedes can make a couple of tweaks, Hamilton loves the track. He's due for, I like that. I like that a lot. That's good.
All right.
Beautiful.
Yep.
All right. That'll do it. Miami Grand Prix. Again, apologies for the lateness of this. But, when Sam has to go to camp, Sam as well. You lobbied to stay home, but we forced you to go to camp. It is mandatory. So we'll take that one on the chin. This is the DRS Zone podcast. My name is Ed White. His name is Sam White. You can find this anywhere you get your podcasts, and we will see you after the Spanish Grand Prix. Thanks for listening.